Good morning. We're going to do things a little different today. We're going to start with a hymn. So if you will stand in body or spirit and open the hymnal to page 347, Gather the Spirit. My name is Dennis, and I'm honored to serve as the worship associate for this service of the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Charlotte County, also known as UUFCC. You are welcome here, no matter who you are, no matter where you come from, no matter your background. You are welcome here to join us as we proclaim the worth in our spiritual journeys. You are welcome to join us in community as we learn, live, and love together. As you've heard, we start our service each week by singing an invitation to gather, even though many of us are scattered in other places and viewing via technology. But whether your space is virtual or live, we are really glad that you decided to spend this morning with us. I wish to also express my gratitude to Tom and Corey. They're our tech folks, and Don's been helping with that too. Yeah. The building and grounds team, people who take care of cleaning and arranging, and I wish to thank the membership committee and their team of greeters and our hospitality volunteers for preparing coffee and snacks that we will enjoy following the service. Special thanks to our choir director, Janet Morell, who is taking the day off, pianist Ryan Smith, and of course the UUFCC choir, which you may notice is growing in number. This service is being broadcast live on YouTube. Consequently, to protect folks' privacy, it is our practice to use first names and, when necessary, last initials. The YouTube recording will also be available on the UUFCC YouTube channel after the service. I would also like to remind you of a couple simple procedures that will help our service run smoothly. Please silence your phones, and I'll try to remember to tell you to turn them back on. For those who are with us virtually, you may wish to have a chalice or candle available for our chalice lighting ritual. Following the service, we will gather in the fellowship hall for our social time. Coffee and snacks will be served by our weekly volunteers, and you can sign up on the bulletin board in the social hall to help out with future services. If you are new here, would you please stand or wave and tell us your first name and where you're from? Please.
Hi everyone. My name is Carlos Barret. American, because I'm a black Latino. And I am just moved here in Lake Susie. I'm hailing from Rockland County, New York, the town of Harvester. I am a member of the Unitarian Universalist over there. Okay. So fully retired, 55+ community, all that stuff. Okay. Unfortunately, just myself because my loved one passed away about 7 years ago. But you know, that's going. And I do a little bit of Latin jazz singing. So, you guys. And so I found my new community.
Thank you. Yes, please.
My name is Marsha Mosby. Oh, I'm so sorry.
You're fine.
This is my second visit. I enjoyed it so much the first time that I'm back. And I asked if I could sing with the choir.
Welcome, Marcia.
A wonderful, loving, warm congregation, and I certainly have enjoyed it.
Thank you. Hello.
My name is Michael McGroarty. I've actually attended before on different occasions in the past, but now we have fully relocated to Punta Gorda, and via Oregon, Vegas, and now here.
Welcome. If you're viewing this service on YouTube and are unfamiliar with the fellowship but would like to learn more, email our administrator, Mary Jane, at office@uufcc.org, or visit our website at uufcc.org. And wherever you are, we're glad you've chosen to spend your time with us. And now we will have the prelude. Thank you, Ryan. We will open this sacred space by turning our attention to the chalice. The lighting of the chalice is a ritual that unites Unitarian Universalists everywhere. It is a symbol of so many of our values: love, guidance, courage, sacrifice, illumination, passion, and the light of community. No single interpretation is sacrosanct over others. Like our faith, they all are inclusive and we are all accepted. The following chalice lighting words were written by Reverend Tellis Whitfield and entitled, "We Recognize the Fragility of Life." With the kindling of our flame, we recognize the fragility of life and our own vulnerability as we navigate challenges that always seem to come. May this light remind us of the strength we possess as individuals and collectively as a community to lean into and respond, finding our way forward together. We light this flame, the bright warmth of belonging, of companionship, to light our chalice. Please join me in reciting our affirmation. Shortly, there'll be time for folks at home to light their chalices. Love is the spirit of this fellowship, and service is its law. This is our aspiration, to dwell together in peace, to seek truth in love, and to help one another. And if you're watching from somewhere else, light your chalice or candle now. And now we have another hymn. Again, if you will rise in body or spirit, it's 120 called Turn Back. The reading this morning was written by Denise Leverov. She's one of my favorite authors, and we have numerous pieces in the hymnal that she has written. It's called Beginners. But we have only begun to love the earth. We have only begun to imagine the fullness of life. How could we tire of hope? So much is in bud. How can desire fail? We have only begun to imagine justice and mercy. Only begun to envision how it might be to live as siblings, with beast and flower, not as oppressors. Surely our river cannot be already hastening to the sea. Surely it cannot drag in the silt all that is innocent. Not yet. Not yet. There is too much broken that needs to be mended. Too much hurt that we have done to each other that cannot yet be forgiven. We have only begun to know the power that is in us if we would join our solitudes in the communion of struggle. So much is unfolding that must complete its gesture. So much in the bud. We have a long tradition at UUFCC of sharing our joys and sorrows and life milestones by entering them into the book of life. These messages can be written, you can write these messages in the red book, which is usually kept on the back table before the service begins. Those that are at home are welcome to email their entries no later than Saturday to the Book of Life at uufcc.org. Messages should be sent by Saturday. All entries will be read by the worship associate during the Sunday morning service. After that, emailed messages will be entered into the actual red book. After I have completed reading, we will enter into a moment of silence, followed by hymn 123, Spirit of Life. I don't see anything in the book this morning, and when I checked my email before the service, we didn't have any either. So I guess this means that we're all in very good shape. Is there a
The one from Alice and George Butler. Piece of paper you said you have.
Thank you. Oh, this is from Alice and George, and somewhere up here I've got this in paper. We want to thank you for the lovely send-off you gave us 2 weeks ago. We have been members of 2 previous UU congregations, but UUFCC is the greatest. We will miss all of you as we go back home to Massachusetts on Monday. We will never forget you all and hope to see you at happy hour with John Lee on Wednesday nights. Alice and George. Let's take a few moments of silence. son Cyril is a member of this fellowship, and currently he's exchanging the weather in Punta Gorda for that of Washington State. He became interested in climate change about 8 years ago, and he's written several pieces on climate change for our newsletter. In addition to this, he has attended 3 of Al Gore's climate reality workshops, and he is a retired family physician who spent his first 31 years in the United Kingdom. He earned his medical degree from Cambridge. Alan and his beautiful wife, Jerry, will return to Florida in October, but that's only to close on the sale of their house in Punta Gorda, and then they're going to relocate back in Washington State, where Alan first lived when he came to the States. They will be greatly, greatly missed. The title of his presentation is Saving the Planet, One UU at a Time. Corey?
Yep, that's him.
Hello, everybody. My name is Alan Searle, and I'm here to tell you how to save the planet in less than 15 minutes. Maybe it'll just be part of the planet. I'd like to begin with a story which I'm told was completely true. There was this cruise ship, and it was in the Mediterranean. Everybody having a terrific time, dancing, singing, eating too much, until the boat struck a reef and sank very quickly. The only survivors were 4 men who were swimming as fast as they could towards the single remaining lifeboat. The first person to reach the lifeboat hauled himself out and pulled out a gun and faced the other 3. "I'm an oil company executive," he said, "and I know about these things. There's only enough room on this boat for 3 people. So tell me why I shouldn't shoot you." And he pointed his gun at the first man. "Well," he replied, "well, I'm a grade school teacher. I work with kindergarten and first grades. I make sure their young minds are molded correctly to make them wonderful citizens." The oil company executive said, "Okay, good. You can get in the boat." He then pointed his gun at the next man. "Tell me why I shouldn't shoot you." The man replied, "Well, I'm a firefighter. I rush into people's houses to save them. And of course, they're kindergarten and first grade children. I am good for society." The oil company executive said, "Okay, get in," and then points his gun at the last man. He's about to pull the trigger when the man in the water says, "Hey, wait a second. I'm a climate scientist, and I want to tell you what I'm doing about climate change. And I'd like to tell you..." Suddenly, there were 2 splashes as a school teacher and a firefighter both dived back into the water, saying, "Shoot us. Anything is better than another talk on climate change." Well, I don't think we've got there yet, but in the last 5 years, we've gone from living in a state where the government apparently didn't allow the words change and climate in the same sentence, to one where I think we're being overwhelmed by the information the media is presenting to us. Every day, there is some new climate change statistic or climate disaster presented to us by the media. And of course, the media love disasters. And what happens to us when we have too much information? We're human, so of course we ignore it. And of course we listen to people who tell us to ignore it, even worse. As I was writing this talk, the hottest day worldwide ever was recorded. And then I had to close the windows this morning to avoid the smoke, haze from forest fires burning in Canada. Yet we've been told we are in a climate emergency. Things are dire, awful things are going to happen. But we're still here, and nothing much seems to have changed. And therefore we pay attention to those constancies we know about. Things like Netflix, YouTube, Facebook, apple pie, and ice cream. It's much easier to play with the status quo than try and come up against it. Back in the 50s, living in London, we had to have the chimney sweep come at times. It was a filthy job, and despite new techniques, not having to climb up chimneys anymore, sealing the hearth and taking precautions, my mother had to clean and dust the house after the visit. About 250 years previously, in 1775, things were a lot worse. In that year, Percival Pott described what is thought to be the first recorded industrial disease, scrotal cancer in young chimney sweeps. Sweeps started as young as 5 years old, clambered around chimneys, and rarely washed, and developed what is a form of skin cancer in the late teens and early 20s. 13 years later, the British government finally acted and brought in the first Chimney Sweep Act. In order to be apprenticed to a chimney sweep, you had to have written parental permission, Sundays off, be clothed, and over 8 years of age, of course. So what happened then? Well, basically nothing. The incidence of the cancer remained high for the next 100 years. The sweeps were important to reducing fire risk in London's housing. Insurance companies needed them, and the status quo persisted until the quality of housing improved. But even then, even by the 1950s, the quality of housing was not great. Today, in some ways, we're repeating the story of the chimney sweeps. Despite national and international promises, emissions of CO2 continue to rise. We are now at 420 parts per million, halfway to doubling from the pre-industrial revolution level of 280, and each year we're pumping more and more CO2 into our atmosphere. In 1974, there were 4 billion humans on the planet. As of last year, there are now 8 billion. So what should we expected? In fact, are we still in the Holocene era? That's the era, geologically speaking, which we're supposed to be in following the last ice age. However, are we in what some consider now a geological Anthropocene era? That's when humans are having a major effect on geology and the world's ecosystem. It is a proposed labeling, and depending on your viewpoint, it could have started with farming in Mesopotamia thousands of years ago, the Industrial Revolution in the 18th century, or with nuclear fallout in the 50s from atom bomb testing. It's also a time where there has been more species extinction and falling biodiversity. If you're interested, Wikipedia has a lot of information on this, and the term again is Anthropocene. It's not easy to say the planet, of course, but let's try. Let's imagine for a minute or two that you are the finance minister for a country which is trying to pull itself out of poverty. It's probably going to be in Africa. You need a loan from the World Bank to improve your power grid, and you'd love to be able to construct a grid employing the latest renewable energy ideas, but it will cost many times as much to build one as one based on fossil fuels. Do you take on the bigger loan so you can implement renewable energy, or do you construct a fossil fuel powered grid? If you take on the loan, maybe you won't be able to finance that clinic or fund another grade at school. The very real challenge you have today is, should you go for a poorer today or a hotter tomorrow? And if you're the finance minister, this can be particularly annoying if you know that your country's contribution to total CO2 is negligible compared to the vast volumes produced by the industrialized countries. Also, researchers at the IMF have demonstrated that in the last 30 years, a 1% improvement in GDP in developing countries has been associated with a 0.7% increase in emissions. Basically, there's no free lunch. So how much money is needed? This is somewhat unbelievable, but this is from July the 1st, The Economist. $2.8 trillion will be needed by 2030 to put the developing world on a green growth path. 1 trillion will be needed from rich countries, but are we getting there? A recent meeting, which wrapped up in June in Paris, pledged 100 billion a year in 2030. It seems such an enormous sum, but it doesn't sound like it's going to be enough. Just under 20 years ago, an economist published what is now known as the Stern Report. His findings suggested that we should spend 1% of the world's GDP combating climate change, and that was in 2006. If we didn't do that, we would risk having to spend 20% later. However, that's enough dismal talk and gloomy statistics. We still haven't saved the world. Or what can we do to at least our little part of the world? Well, the average American is responsible responsible for between 16 to 18 tons of CO2 emissions per year. Worldwide, the average is about 4 tons per person. Most of that 16 to 18 tons we have very little control over. Our infrastructure, the way we live, heat or cool our offices, the use of energy, etc., are for the most part not in our control. But there are a few items which we have under control. One is travel, and that can mean local travel, long distance travel. On a local level, if you are able, try walking or bicycling more. You'll reduce both your chance of heart disease and maybe even your waistline. You might even consider donating to a carbon offset charity. You drive your car or fly, and someone else is paid to plant trees. The goal is to offset your CO2 emissions. Second is your diet. The average American eats 270 pounds of meat per year. That's about 12 ounces per person per day. Dietitians recommend 3 ounces per day, or about the same size as a pack of cards. Now, if you're a meat lover, you're responsible for approximately 3.3 tons of carbon dioxide per year. If you're the average American, your diet is responsible for 2.5 tons. That's eating meat, red meat, chicken, and fish. But if you just give up red meat, you will be down to 1.9 tons. You can go ahead and eat chicken and fish. Interesting enough, you don't get much extra benefit by being vegetarian, 1.7 tons, or vegan, 1.5 tons. And why is there not much extra benefit? Well, it's because of transportation, refrigeration, and the other costs of bringing any food to the table. Among the benefits of cutting out red meat would also be a reduction in your risk of colon and breast cancer and coronary artery disease. Then another item is, of course, how you vote. I'm not going to try to tell you how to vote, but voting is clearly one of the times when we may have some control over our future. In the meantime, maybe leaving off those red meats might be something to think about. Also, if you don't want to go and plant a tree yourself, how about paying someone else to do it on your behalf? And what about that finance minister's quandary? A poorer today or a hotter tomorrow? So what are we doing about that? There, of course, is one other possibility. If we're not doing enough, are we opting for a hotter today and a hotter and poorer tomorrow? We'll find out. Thank you.
In our tradition, congregations exist because of the generous support of members and friends. It is our privilege and our responsibility to ensure the health and future of this fellowship. To this end, your offering to support the ministry of this fellowship, whether by pledge or donation, is very, very important. There are several ways you can give. You can drop your donation in the baskets that are being passed by our greeters. You can mail checks to the office and drop them in our mailbox, or call the office to make other arrangements. We are also equipped to accept donations through the Venmo app. Payments through this app should be made to UUFCC offering. You can also have your bank automatically send a check to the fellowship each month. Your generosity is always appreciated. And if you're with us for the first time, do not feel obligated to give. Your presence is our gift. And now will you rise in body and spirit? We will sing hymn number 163, For the Earth Forever Turning. Now it's time to highlight UUFCC's special events and activities. Please remember, check your weekly UUFCC updates, which include a calendar and links for connecting via Zoom or in person. Additionally, if you would like to have fellowship events included, if you'd like to have fellowships events highlighted during this service, you can email the worship associate at bookoflife@uufcc.org. Today I have a couple announcements. I wanted, let's see, at 3 p.m. today, the secular community of Southwest Florida will be meeting in the building. On Tuesdays, there's Spanish class, and on Wednesday, a Ray is meeting here. There'll be choir rehearsal, and online, you can always go to happy hour and visit with John Lee and others. I'm very excited about what I'm about to read. UUFCC is going to have an open art studio. It says, take a creative break. A new activity starting this fall will be an open art studio. This is time to bring an art or craft project to work on. Bring your paints, pencils, canvas, paper, embroidery, crochet, and all the supplies that you need. If you paint, bring a cover for the tables. There are no instructions, but there'll be lots of fellowship. This time is a great time to get together and create. It will begin on September 13th from 1 to 3. And if you have any questions, talk to Trudy. She's in the back. And Sandy T, where she's up front. I've already signed up. I'm very excited. Okay. As Laurie comes up to extinguish the chalice, remember that the light of hope, the fire of commitment, and the warmth of community will sustain and nurture you until we meet again. And now I would like you to open your hymnals to the back, number 457. And together we will read, I am only one, but still I am one. I cannot do everything, but still I can do something. And because I cannot do everything, I must not refuse to do the something that I can do. Our closing hymn is 168, One More Step. Please rise in body or spirit.